Ho, so we're on to round 114 and this is what we're going to be doing. So another repetitive round, and round 115 is also going to be exactly the same. So what we're doing is we're working into our round 112. Again, we're skipping 2 legs, so we're working behind the half double crochet front posts from round number 113, right? And we're just making again so 5 double crochet popcorn, right? Chain 1 to close, chain 1, right? Yarn over, skip 2 legs and into the next space. Right, and now, as I said, round number 115 will be exactly the same, but I'll see you at the end of this round. We can finish off this round together before we move on to round 115. Right, so it's going to look like that. Okay, and I shall see you shortly, although it's 255 popcorns, so definitely a Netflix round, right? Right, so we're on to round number 115, and as I was saying, round number 115 is going to look exactly the same. So we're going to be working into those chain 1 spaces from our previous round, right? So again, we're just working a popcorn. So I'm just starting with the chain 3, which is equal to 1 double crochet, as you guys already know. Right, so 5 double crochets. I always just grab the back of the 3rd chain to make my first popcorn. So we chain 1 to close. So we're doing exactly the same as we did. And if you're looking at that bits of nail polish on my fingers, I actually cleaned it all off because I broke a nail, so I was hoping that it wouldn't break off completely. So I put some nail polish on, which I never do because it doesn't last very long for me, because my hands are in everything. Dogs, the garden, so on and so forth. And so my nail polish lasts a couple of hours before it starts chipping, even good nail polish. Right, so then that bit of nail actually just broke off. And so I thought, oh well, I'm just going to take the nail polish off. But as you can see, I didn't do a very good job. So anyway, so if you're just thinking, good grief, her manicure is very untidy. When I'm done with this, then I'll go and sort that out. Right, so you're going to have exactly the same amount of popcorns, right? So 3, 4, and 5. Very simple round, just working into our chain 1 space from the previous round. Right, so just going to go all the way around, and then when you get to the end, you'll just slip stitch into the top of your beginning popcorn and fasten off. And of course the color I'm using, I'm continuing with my Claret, and I shall see you at the end of round number 115. Right, so I have finished my second round, so round 115 of my popcorns. Right, so obviously you're just going to slip stitch into your beginning popcorn and fasten off. Right, so both of your rounds, the stitch count is exactly the same. Now we are going to move on to round number 116. Now I have been keeping this a secret and you know that I really struggle to keep secrets. Well, maybe you don't know, but I have a couple of things that I do on the side. I call them my side hustles. So those are hobbies that I have, for example, gardening, sewing, embroidery, painting watercolored roses, and the other one is felting. Now, I've always loved felting, so I have loads and loads of those felt squares, and I used to make little animals out of them and so on and so forth. But a couple of years ago, I saw an amazing video by a Japanese lady, and you can find those videos on YouTube, where she felted a kitten, a little cat face that was in a frame. And I just fell in love with felting, and I've been playing around with felting for a while. And I've been thinking a lot over the past months of how to incorporate my felting, because it's so addictive and I love it so much that I don't want to give up crochet to become a felting pattern designer, right? So I've been thinking of ways of how to incorporate felting into my crochet, and I want to share a little technique that we're going to be using in this particular design. Now, many of you may have already done felting, so you might have felting tools at your disposal. I'll tell you what they are just now. And the felting needles are a fantastic way, right, of working in ends of your crochet. So, for example, let me see if I can find a little end for you. So, traditionally in crochet, we would just squirrel this away, right? So what you can also do, okay, so let's start from the beginning. So this is what a felting needle looks like if you've never had, if you've never seen one before. Now, if you look closely, this one is actually a spiral felting needle, which I always use because it felts very quickly. Right, so now with felting needles, first of all, they're super, super sharp. Secondly, the ends do break easily. So if you buy felting needles, it's best to buy a few at a time, sort of 2 or 6, you know, just they're not expensive. And right, so those are the two things. You need to keep the point away from your finger because it's super, super sharp. And stock up on felting needles. Now, the other tool that is very useful is a hard foam surface, right? Because you're going to be stabbing into that. Now, this is purely optional. If you already have felting tools, then you'll maybe have used this as a way to squirrel away your ends, right? Especially when it's one thing to work your ends in, and it's another if you've just got tiny little bits and pieces that are sticking out. Now you can see like how easy this is, right? Again, don't. So what I'm going to do is just turn my work over so it's a bit easier to work it into our. Right, so, and of course, now that I've turned it over, I can't even find the piece, right? So, which just goes to show you how, there it is, how easily this is squirreled away. So there it is. Now, what happens with your felting needle is that so there are various sizes. You get fine, super fine, you get coarse, you get general purpose, and so on and so forth. And mostly the felting needles have little notches up the shaft of the felting needle. But with the spiral one, it has kind of little notches. You can see it's just very, very tiny little notches, and it's also spiraled. So I find the spiral ones just work beautifully, as I said before. Now, right, so the reason I'm showing you this is because this is basically just a little mini tutorial. With your felting needle, just make sure that you just popping your yarn in. Now what happens is that it melds, it blends in with the surface. It blends in on itself and whatever it is you're poking it into, like that. Okay, and let me tell you, this is staunch. It does not come undone, right? Even if you wash. And the reason is because those little barbs, etc., are actually blending the fibers together, right? And there's your end, done and dusted and gone. So for future use, and I don't know why I didn't do this before. I didn't really think of it, although in my group, but some years ago, somebody was talking about using a felting needle for squirreling away the little ends, right? So this works brilliantly. Now so now you can see it's gone. So you can do the same with you just make sure that you cut it off about there, and then basically just poke it into your surface underneath. Okay, so I've just blended this end in with that 3 double crochet together like that. Okay, now so I'm going to do that with the others, but I'm not going to do that now. So the other thing I wanted to show you which I thought was quite cute, if you have some carded yarn. So carded yarn is when, okay, excuse me for being a complete Philistine, but I'm actually using a cat, and so you don't have to go out and buy an expensive carding brush, right? I'm using this, as you can see, it's one of those brushes that you use for brushing cats or dogs with short hair or whatever, right? There's that on that side, but you do get them without the brush side, right? So I just went and bought one at a little shop, sort of a retail shop here called the Crazy Store, where you can literally sort of find anything, and it's very, very cheap. So at some stage I might invest in a carding brush. But if you want to know about carding, you can just go onto YouTube and find out how to card yarn. But basically you just brush your yarn, and this is my Stylecraft Special DK in blush, and I've carded it, so I think it's carding. So basically you just brush the fibers, you cut off certain lengths, you brush the fibers until you get this lovely sort of candy floss. Right, so I just had this crazy idea when we were making our little flowers, right? So some of you may have worked in your long tails along here, and then what I was suggesting is that you use a little bit of fabric glue, but I have a much better idea, right? So if you haven't done that, you can just take a tiny, teeny weeny piece of your carded fiber, and you can just work it into your flower. So this will basically be worked into now you can actually make it, you can see how beautifully this works. And this is staunch, let me tell you. So you're working it basically into the little middle bubble of your daisy, like that. Okay, and you can just pull the little side. Just be careful when you're doing that you don't snap. You don't want to snap your needles, because even though they're not expensive, you can see they're quite like that. So make sure that you're just poking it in like that. Right, and that's pretty staunch. So you can do that. I'm just using a different color so that I can. So you just need, honestly, you need even less than what I use. So we just break off a teeny weeny piece. Excuse my nails, I don't know. I've been messing around with them and they are breaking. Ow! So try not to prick yourself. Make sure that you've got some surface like that. The foam pads work great, and they're very, very super duper cheap to buy. right? You can just work it in like that. So when you've been doing this for a long time, you can actually go very, very quickly, right? And now this will also cover up those little bits and pieces, and you just, right, and you can make it as small as you like by just working along the edges like that. But I'm doing this just for demonstration purposes. I would suggest that if you don't have felting needles, go and invest in some felting needles, and you also get a holder. You do get holders, like wooden holders, so but it's absolutely fine to actually just hold the needle. Excuse me. Right, now this is not something you have to do now. I just thought I'd take a break from the monotony of doing all of those popcorns. Right, now this is a great tool for making sure that your little flower does not come adrift, right? So you're just going to push this into, like, kind of into your backing like that. Now you don't want to lose the little rise there, so you just work it around. So you're basically blending this in, okay? And you can pull, and now I just want my little blossom to kind of go over that blue like that, right? And you can just work it like that. Okay, you just blend it in. Right, and this is a good way of making sure that your blossoms don't fold up, and you can just pull them into shape, so you can pull them before, right, like that. So be careful you don't get your fingers caught. Right, and you just go in, just be careful, be gentle with the tip. Right. Okay, so as I say, if you have got felting needles, then this is where you can use them. If you don't have felting needles, you can block your flowers out and just pin them out, and then they will dry and keep their shape, right? Otherwise, you can do this. Right, so you don't want to lose them in the fabric behind them. Right, so basically you're just blending like that. Okay, and I mean, if you have, so this needle is quite coarse, and okay, so we want to make sure that we are pulling our petals apart like that. Okay, they can all be a little bit different, so they look a little bit more realistic. So that one can go over like so, right? Right, and then we just do you can just pull it out of it. Right, they don't have to be 100% flat. It's just to keep them in place. So like that. So you can maybe just use a pin or something just to keep them in place while you're busy while you are busy doing this. Right. Okay, and then you can just, but this is something to do when it actually goes very, very quickly, and you don't have to do this now. This you can do at the end of our throw, right? When you want to just do your finishing touches, then you can do this. And you'll get the hang of it very, very quickly, right? Right, so you can see I'm sort of blending the yarn there, and so on and so forth. So you need a bit of time. I'm rushing now because obviously I don't want to make this a whole felting tutorial, because what do I know? But anyway, I thought I would show you the advantages of using your felting needle to squirrel away little bits and pieces that I'm always trying to think of new ways to blend in those little ties, especially for the independent rounds, because I obviously don't want them to come adrift, right? So this is another way of doing it right. So have fun. And honestly, felting is just the most fun and addictive thing ever. I mean, crochet, definitely, but felting, oh my goodness. Right, so do go and invest in a couple of felting needles. Have a look at a couple of video tutorials on YouTube. It's so, so fun. So I can see myself just once I finish this is actually getting into the felting process and just felting this entire project. Right, so that is round number, I'm going to make that round 116, okay, because it gives you a nice break from making all of those popcorns and doing a lot of repetitive stuff. So you can have some fun with your felting needle if you don't have a felting needle and you're not interested in doing that, then you can just move on to round number 117. So before we go on to round 117, these are a whole lot of tails that I had, and they were over here where I was working in tandem, and they were the beginning tails of these rounds. And as you can see, I have felted them all away. So you cut the tail down until you have about that much left, and then you just felt it in as I showed you. Right, and you can't see anything on the other side, right? So it is pretty staunch, right? And then of course, people do ask, do these feltings come undone at some point? But they don't, because especially if you wash your blanket, if anything, it is going to blend even further into the rest of the yarn. Right, so that is our little felting exercise. And I do hope that you get completely and utterly hooked on felting as I have. I wish that I had shown you how to do this sooner. See, I did a little excuse me. So I've been felting my flowers. In fact, I haven't wanted to stop right, because it is so incredibly addictive. But what it does as well is just it means that your flowers are not going to curl up like that. Right, so that's enough about felting, and I shall see you at the next round. On to round number 117, and round number 117, all we're doing is making a simple row of double crochet, so 2 double crochets into our chain 1 space from round number 115, and then a double crochet front post over the popcorn. So we're working double crochet front posts over all the popcorns, and we're working 2 double crochets into our chain 1 space. Right, so you probably already guessed this is our final set of 10 rounds, and then we're actually finished with our large circle, because by then it will measure, at least for me, 1.5 meters from edge to edge, right? And then of course after that we'll be on to part 3, which are the optional corners, and that's if you're going to square off your throw. Right, so as you can see, very, very simple round, just long, pretty laborious, another Netflix round. Okay, so just 2 double crochets into the chain 1 space, 1 double crochet front post over the popcorns as we go along. Right, and then I won't finish off this round with you. So what I'm going to do is just do that. And then, of course, when you finish the round, you'll just make a double crochet front post over your last popcorn and then just slip stitch into your second double crochet to fasten off. Right, and then I'm going to go straight on to round number 118, because round number 118 is a simple round of half double crochet front posts. Right, so you're going to end up with, for the stitch count for this is 510 double crochets and 255 double crochet front posts. So that makes 765 stitches. And now again, you know, where we started, you can actually start anywhere for round number 117 in any of the chain one spaces. And now basically the same, you can begin absolutely anywhere for your next round, and we're just making half double crochet front posts again. We've done this before because we want to create a bit of a framework for our next rounds. Right, like that. So okay, so half double crochet front posts over all of your 765 stitches. So this is round number 118. And to finish round number 118, you'll just slip stitch into your second half double crochet front post and fasten off. Right, and then I shall see you at round number 120. Right, so okay, so it's going to look like that. Okie dokie, so I shall see you at the end of this round, and we can start round not 120, 119, so 119. Right, so this is 118, and I shall see you at round 119. Right, so I hope your previous two rounds went along with no problems at all. So I have already started my round 119. And for round 119, what we're doing is we are working again. We are working half double crochet front posts behind our previous half double crochet front posts and into our round 117, like that. Okay, so what we're trying to create here is a nice heavy border, because we are coming up to the last rounds of our circle, and we want to make sure that our border is nice and staunch. Now, the only difference that's going to happen here is we want to lose a stitch. Right, so we have a total, for our previous round, we had a total of 765 stitches, right? And now we want to make 764 stitches. And we need to do this so that we can prepare for our corners, because if we have 4 corners on a circle and a number that's not divisible by 4, then we're going to be in big trouble. Right, so we're going to lose a stitch. Now in this round, you can lose your stitch anywhere on the round, right? So when I say lose a stitch, what I mean is you can make a stitch, so a half double crochet front post, we can skip one stitch from round number 117 and just half double crochet front post over the next stitch. Right, so we're skipping a stitch and we half double crochet front post over the next stitch and just continue, right, like that. And then just check your stitch count at the end to make sure you do have 764 stitches, right, and you just carry on. So there we go, and you can't see that skip stitch because of what we're doing, right? It just kind of disappears, so it doesn't leave a hole or a space or anything like that. Okay, so that is round 119, and then of course you're just going to slip stitch into your second half double crochet front post to close. Right, so you'll just slip stitch into your second half double crochet as per usual, slip stitch closed, fasten off, and then you can felt in your ends. That's taking into consideration that you do have a felting needle, right? Otherwise, you're just going to have to weave your ends in, right? And I shall see you at the beginning of round 120. We have finished our round 119, which was our half double crochet front post over round 117, and remember we skipped one stitch, so we have 764 half double crochet front posts for round 119. Now round 120 and 121 and 122, I've just gone ahead a little bit to show you what it is we're going to be doing. So I'm working these 3 rounds in tandem, and these are the last, except for one, the last 3 rounds. We still have one more round to go to finish off our circle, right? Now you can keep your throw circular, but if you want to square off your throw, I'm going to make corners, and my plan is, instead of making right angle corners, so at, you know, very sort of geometric corners, I'm going to make rounded corners, right? So that is, I haven't designed them yet, so I can't show you what I'm going to do, and I don't even know if I'll be able to do it, but I don't see why not. Right, so now enough of the idle chit chat. So I've gone ahead and done a few of the round number 120. So the color that I'm using is the gold. Now you can begin absolutely anywhere in this round, okay? You're going again, we're working into round 117. So round 117 is really earning its keep, right? Because we've worked 2 rounds so far into round 117. Now, so you can begin anywhere. So let's, just for argument's sake, say I've started over there, right? And what we're going to make is one set of 2 times 3 double crochets together, and we're going to close off our 3 double crochets together with a chain 1 each time, so throughout, right? And then we're going to skip 5 legs. So we can't really call them posts anymore. We can't even call them legs anymore. They're like the top of the legs, because they're the top of the double crochets from round 117. Right. So we're going to skip 5 legs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to work 3 double crochets together into the next space, like so. So sorry about the bad light, but it's very stormy. And there's our chain 1 to close, yarn over, and again 1, 2, 3, okay, yarn over, pull through, chain 1 to close, and then we're going to skip. So we're going to yarn over, skip the next 5 legs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and again 1, 2, 3. So we're working 3 double crochets together, chain 1 to close, and 3 double crochets together. And now you're going to end up with 153 sets of 2 times 3 double crochets together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm just going to do the last one with you. Well, not the last one, but the last one with you. By the way, if you notice a lot of hair, you know, the cats, I should actually put my piece away each time, because it does help to stop it from getting, you know, quite fluffy at this point with these make-alongs and the Slo-Crochet-Alongs and so on and so forth. If you know, depending on what yarn you're using, especially acrylic, it doesn't pull, but it does tend to get a bit fluffy, right? And of course it's cold. And so somehow, even if I store it in my basket, my cats still seem to find it. I'm going to have to hide it away. But, you know, we're almost at the end. Right, so you're just going to carry on like that all the way around, skipping 5 legs as we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you're just going to go like that all the way around, and then to finish off you'll just slip stitch into the top of your, so you'll go all the way around and then slip stitch into the top of your first 3 double crochets together. Right, so that is round number 120, but I'm going to move on to round 121 immediately. So round 121, I'm working with my cream. I know it's a little bit difficult to see because of my light background, but this is easy peasy. We are working half double crochets, so we're working 4 half double crochets, chain 2 between our 153 sets of 2 times 3 double crochets together. Right, so now you can begin in the space between any set of 2 times 3 double crochets together. We're just making 4 half double crochets, chain 2, right? 4 half double crochets, 2, 3 and 4, chain 2, yarn over, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and so on and so forth. So a nice easy round. Okay, so it's going to look like so. Okay, and you're going to end up with 153 times 4 half double crochets, which is 612 half double crochets, and you're going to have 153 chain 2 spaces. And then to finish off, so you're going to go all the way around, and then as usual you'll just slip stitch into your second half double crochet to fasten off, and I will see you at round 122. Right, so easy peasy, lots of pictures in the text pattern as well. Okay, right. Right, so as you can see, I haven't finished because I am going to be working these 3 rounds in tandem, and they are quite long rounds, so I'm just going to show you sections at this point because otherwise I'm not going to be able to get the pattern to you timeously. Right, so now you can begin in any set of 4 half double crochets, and we're going to make single crochet front posts. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3 and 4. Then you're going to yarn over, and now we're going to make 2 double crochets together, but we're going to place our double crochets either side of the post of the 5 double crochets that we skipped from round 117. So we yarn over, we skip 2 double crochets, and we work right over those that chain space and the joining space, so the chain 2 space and that joining space. Yarn over, skip the next leg, right, or that next double crochet from 117, double crochet together. Right, and now you're not going to work a single crochet, my brain, a chain to close that. You're just going to keep it like that, and then immediately 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn over, skip 2 double crochets from round 117 into the next space, 1 double crochet, do not close, skip the next double crochet into the next space, 1 double crochet, yarn over, work together immediately. Single crochet front post, 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn over, skip 1, 2, 1 double crochet, skip into the next space, 1 double crochet, and again 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so on and so forth. Right, so it's going to look like that. Oopsie. Now, as I said, you can work these 3 rounds in tandem. So you can, you can do a little bit of that. When you get bored of that, you can do a bit of that. When you get bored of that, then you can do a bit of this. Right. Now, once we've finished this, we're just going to make 1 more round, and then we're officially finished with the circle. And then the next part, which is so that'll be the end of part 2, and then our part 3 will be our corners, right? And the corners we will be working into this round, into our round 119, because that's the round that has more or less 4 equal amounts of stitches, right? So that's going to be quite interesting. In my mind, I can see it all very clearly, but at the moment, it's still a mystery. Okay, so round 122, you just carry on like that, and then obviously you're going to go all the way around like that, and then to close off, you'll just slip stitch into your second single crochet front post and fasten off, and your stitch count is going to revert back to 765, right? Because you have 4 times 153. Okay, so 4 times 153 is 612, and then you're going to have 153 times 2 double crochet front posts, right? Okay, not front posts, 2 double crochets together, and that added to your 612 is going to be 765 stitches. Right, so I shall see you at our final round for part 2, which is 123. Right, so I hope that your work looks like this right now. Okay. Not a very laborious round. I found it quite quick and easy, unlike the popcorns. Right, so now we're going to go on to our last round, which is round number 123. And for those of you who are not squaring off the throw, this is the very last round. So what we're going to be doing is, and I have just done a little sample piece for you. So we're going to be working with 2 colors. I'm working with my denim and my claret, right? But I'm going to show you how to do this. Now, you don't have to use 2 colors. You can just use 1 color. But I quite like the idea of, picking up the red at the end here. Right, so I'm going to see you in a moment. Right, so as I was saying, I'm going to be using 2 colors, or we are going to be using 2 colors. That's for those of you who are going to use 2 colors. Now we're going to start off with the color. So basically what we're doing is we're making puffs, and then we're making a gentle scallop in between. So we're making puffs between our 2 double crochets together, like that from our previous round, and then over the single crochet front post we're making a little scallop, right? So now what you want to do is have your end pieces the same length, like that, because you're going to incorporate your second color immediately, right? So my first color is the claret, right? So we just, I'm not really sure which which is the best way to get the best view. Right, so we're going to start off with our puff. So what we're doing is we're just forcing the hook into the space between the 2 double crochets together. And now the first thing I'm going to do is just make a slip knot. So I'll make a slip knot first, and then I'm just going to attach more cat hair. I'm just going to attach my first yarn with a single crochet. Now what you want to do is you want to lay your second yarn between your working yarn, so this is the working area here, and the tail end. Okay, like that. Now we're going to yarn over and we're going to work over that second yarn, and of course into the space between the 2 double crochets together, and we're just going to make yarn over times 4, so that's 2, 3, 4. So that standing single crochet is really just to get things going. So you can just pull that like that, right? So now you have 2 tails to your right, like that, and you've attached your second yarn. Right, now we made our first puff, and now I've attached my second yarn. So there are 2 ways to do this. Either you can attach your second yarn before you close your puff, or you can attach it afterwards. Okay, I've done both and I don't see much of a difference when it comes to a puff. Now to start off, it's always a little bit awkward, but as you go along it's very, very easy. So now we've attached our second yarn, right? And now I'm going to yarn over, and we are going to work into 1, 2, 3 spaces between our 4 single crochet front posts. So into the first one, we're working a half double crochet, right? And we're working over, right throughout this round, we're working over the yarn that we're not using, right? So we work over our non-working yarn each time. It's because we're carrying it along, right? So now into the first space we do a half double crochet, then a double crochet, and now into the next space we work 2 trebles, 1 and 2, and then into the next space we work a double crochet, yarn over, and we work a half double crochet, right? And now you can gently pull your second yarn. Now same story here. Okay, this is a little bit tricky. It's a lot easier with bigger stitches, but when you're working with half double crochets, basically traditionally you are going to, so for example, let me show you. If you were working a double crochet, this is the part where you would attach your second yarn, right, before you close your double crochet. But of course a half double crochet is a teeny weeny little stitch, so you can do it like that. Before you close off your half double crochet, you can finish it off with your first. So this is your first yarn, this is your second yarn, right? Then we're going to yarn over and work 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn over, pull through, chain 1 to close. Now just gently pull your second yarn, attach it to your puff, and then again we're working half double crochet, double crochet, we're working over our first yarn, right, our first color I should say, and then a double crochet into the next and a half double crochet into the same space, right? And again, so there I have finished off my, I wanted to show you, I finished off my half double crochet and then attaching my first color, right? Now it really doesn't make much of a difference, so it's up to you to decide which you prefer to do. 2, 3, 4, because I thought I'd show you both ways. So I think the only problem here is that when you kind of pulling your yarn through the puff. Right. And then yarn, attach your yarn, half double crochet, double crochet, and then into the next space 2 trebles, and then double crochet into the next space, half double crochet, and this time I will do it the other way like that. Okay, and that just means that you have the yarn that you're working with is already on your hook, right? So again, this is teeny little details, and you must just decide which you prefer. Right, yarn over and attach, yarn over, half double crochet into the next space, double crochet into the next space, 2 trebles. Right, all the time working over the yarn that you're carrying, double crochet into the next space, half double crochet. I'm going to just finish it off by attaching my working yarn. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like. And then of course, as you go along, you just sort of, the yarn that's on this side, on the left-hand side, you just gently pull it tight. Not tight, but just, you know, until you can feel it stopping. Right. Okay, so that is round 123, and I shall see you at the end of round 123. We can just finish off the final round together. So either I will see you in the group, for those of you who are not carrying on with the corners, or I will see those of you who are carrying on with the corners at part 3. Right, so until then, bye. Right, so I was going to see you at the end of this round, but of course the weather has turned on me. The lighting is so bad, and it's been one thing after the other. So I'm just going to tell you, to finish this round, you're just going to go all the way around, and then you'll slip stitch into the top of your first puff and fasten off, and then that is the end of your round. Right, so I haven't actually finished this round yet. I'm still huffing and puffing away trying to get it done, but I have finished putting the pattern together, the text pattern and all the pictures, the progress images, and the videos and so on and so forth. So the pattern is basically ready to go, and then I will just spend the next few days or the next day or so in between everything else busy finishing off my circle. Right, and then I shall see you at the corners. Woohoo! See you then.